Hello everyone, have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes? From cheesy smiles to chaos in the chalets. Well, I've got an ex-member of staff here and we're going to ask the questions, so stay tuned.
Fire, no clothes and hair loss. There was a huge rumour, which should we say it's a uniform for their people on the front line and is the symbol of Butlins. They put their uniform on and made a certain adult film. A lot of people forgot to wear their clothes on adult breaks. You would find some interesting things on an adult break, from clothing to latex items to adult items for the bedrooms.
Okay, so for everyone who doesn't know, so my sister used to work at Butlins, so we're going to ask her some questions, alright? There's some things she can tell us, some things she can't tell us. Alright, but we're going to try and get some things. So first of all, this is my sister, her name's Kirsty. So Kirsty, where did you work at Butlins? When did you work at Butlins and which resort?
I worked at Minehead Resort from 2003 to 2005.
What was your role at Butlins?
I was on the bar in centre stage. I started off as a team member and finished as a team leader.
What made you want to work at Butlins?
I went with a group of friends on one last trip with my college friends, bumped into a member of staff who I went to college with, and he told me what a good laugh it was, and it looked like one giant party.
Can you describe like a typical day in your job at Butlins?
On an average day, you would start around about 6 o'clock and finish about 12 o'clock. This was on a normal family break. You would go in, start up the bar, putting your glasses out, putting out sometimes drip trays, sometimes not. You would make sure all the fridges were stocked correctly with the labels facing forward, and at the end of the night it ended with everything being cleared down and venue cleared, fire checks cleared.
What sort of training did you receive from your time at Butlins, from working at the bar to anything else you may have done?
On the standard bar training, it was as simple as pouring drinks, working the till. Customer service came with time and practice. I also had to go on a cocktail making course. We had a very large firm come and hire out the whole of Butlins for their annual year party. One of the bars became a champagne bar, so I had to learn all about the champagnes and making champagne cocktails.
Was there any kind of inside jokes or traditions that you all had as staff that you knew about but perhaps the customers didn't know about?
There was a huge rumour, and I cannot clarify if it's true or if it's a rumour, that another resort got hold of a highly valuable new uniform, which should we say it's a uniform for their people on the front line and is the symbol of Butlins. They put their uniform on and made a certain adult film. They got in a lot of trouble when it got released, but I can't speculate if it's true or if it's not true.
What was your most unforgettable memory about your time at Butlins Minehead?
I have got a lot of very big memories at being at Minehead. From meeting Timmy Mallet and being a child and loving Timmy Mallet, that was a high point for me. I have seen grown men excited over Brum the car. Now, if you don't know who Brum is, he was a children's TV show back in the 90s, and it was a little car that would go out on its adventures. So when he came to Butlins, it was a man with a remote control. Sorry guys, Brum isn't real. But these grown men were very excited over Brum. But personally, my most memorable moment, and I will hold forever, was when Chris Novoskovic from Nirvana came to Butlins. He was with a band called Flipper and he was supporting them. And now, as a huge Nirvana fan, that was a highlight for me.
Was there any funny or unexpected moments in your job?
The job was unpredictable. We were dealing with children quite a lot of the time. I remember one night when a family decided to not wake a child who was asleep in the venue. So we had to take this child back to their accommodation. Luckily, Butlins had a shape system on the floor, and the child knew what shape he was staying at, and we were able to take the child back to their parents. That was a bit of an odd moment. There was funny moments, just, silliness behind the bar, joking around, but to me, a parent leaving a child behind was quite a big moment.
What was the toughest parts about your job, and did you ever have any difficult customers?
Toughest part about my job? Probably the hours. It was pretty heavy going sometimes, especially on an adult weekend. Sometimes we wouldn't leave the venue to 4, maybe 5 in the morning. And then if we had delivery the next day, we'd be back in early in the morning. But it was all part and par. Difficult customers. I remember quite a few on adult breaks. A lot of people forgot to wear their clothes on adult breaks. A lot of not so gentle gentlemen would desire that fire, no clothes and hair loss would all be mingled together, shall I say. Also, I remember during the World Cup one year, we had a gentleman who decided to have a lot of drinks in hot shots and whilst watching the football, then came up to us and he was refused to be served, and he decided to pull over that member of the team by their tie and have them over the bar. Luckily, security was very fast on it and escorted the man out of the venue, and the team member was okay.
How did you balance work and fun during your time at Butlins?
That's a bit of a hard question to really answer. We had one night off a week on a standard week and a standard week. I personally had a life outside of the Butlins bubble. I worked as an Army Cadet instructor, so that was my one time off. But on a standard team member, it would consist of either having a shed party. A shed is what we called our accommodation on team lines, and a lot of people would move their sofas and put them outside, have a barbecue and have a few drinks. At the end of the night, after a work night, we'd quite often go to Jack's, which was an over 18 venue, as the team bar had then gone. And we had a pretty good party time, to be all fair, and that was a great life. We worked hard, but we certainly played hard.
Just kind of circling back to the party, what kind of things happened at the party, what went on at the parties, and how did you keep them away from the people that were on resort?
Guests weren't allowed onto team lines. It was a lot easier back then for guests to walk onto team lines, but now there is a bollard across to tell guests not to go onto team lines. We had to stay professional even when we weren't working, because guests would recognise us out of our work clothes. So it was just a case of keep to our end. And if it was a busy resort, we weren't allowed to go in any of the venues drinking. We'd have to go down to town. That's where the Hairy Dog and the Queens became very useful for us. We supported local businesses by going out of the Butlins bubble. They gave us staff discount in those venues, which helped us and enticed us to go there.
How did the job change from when it's quiet to, like, say, full summer when it's busy on resort? How did things change? Does your job change? Did the hours change? And just generally, do you take the rough with the smooth, or was it kind of consistent all the way through?
On a non-term time, shall we say, the bar was quite quiet. We could get a lot of cleaning done, pull out the freezers, clean behind them, that kind of thing that you wouldn't really have time to do in a busy season. And then we would be looking for things to do to fill our hours. We were contracted for so many hours and we had to fulfill those hours. So it was a lot of cleaning work. But then during summer, when there was no time for the cleaning work, it was get in, get behind the bar, get serving. And then we would be struggling to get somebody on the floor to do glass collecting. So we'd have to have overtimers from environmental, and they were fantastic at coming up and collecting the glasses for us. We were very grateful for them. And on the adult breaks, the start of the shift would seem very quiet, and then all of a sudden it would hit us and we would be rammed. We would be non-stop. We'd have to take our break at the start of the night, And if you weren't a smoker, you weren't going out for a little bit of fresh air. Well, the smokers were going out and having a cigarette and enjoying 5-10 minutes apiece. It was heavy going until the end of the night. And when the venue was empty, it was like a massacre had happened. There was glasses everywhere. It's just like a festival at the end of the festival season. We had to go out and clean the venue. You would find some interesting things on an adult break, from clothing to latex items to adult items for the bedrooms. But environmental had to deal with them. So those poor guys were excellent with their cleaning jobs. We just went and collected the glasses and got ready for the next night. There was a little bit of difference in the glasses system between an adult break and a family break. The glasses on a family break were glasses, and on an adult break they were plastic glasses. So that was a little bit of difference. Otherwise, on an adult break, we were working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then in for a delivery day. While on a family break, we were working our standards 6 days a week.
So you would have seen plenty of redcoats up on stage, which don't do quite so much anymore now. But can you remember the dance routines, and how many of them did you learn during your time there?
We learnt quite a few of the dance routines. We were in the situation where if we were doing a bar stock, we would see the redcoats dancing on stage and learning the routines. But centre stage had its own charm. Us bar members got on stage twice a week ourselves. Thursday night and a Sunday night, to say goodbye to the guests. The bar staff had their own party dances, which caused a little bit of rivalry between us and the redcoats. We would get up, we would do our dances, we choreographed our own routines. We had nothing to do with the Reds in this, it was off our own back. We had a fabulous in-house DJ called Martin who supported us bar staff. We got up, we did our jobs, and it was our way of saying goodbye and thank you to the guests. Where now there's none of that. The party dances from the redcoats seems to be stuck in one venue, where the redcoats used to do the party dances all over the resort. Maybe today's pop culture doesn't exactly give the redcoats the opportunity to learn new dances, but when there was a new song, the redcoats used to learn a dance to go straight away with it. They were straight on stage with a new dance routine. To me, I didn't see this, but maybe that's today's modern music.
How do you think Butlins has changed since your time there to how it is now?
Butlins now doesn't seem so family friendly. To me, it's lost the essence of Billy Butlins. When we were there, we learnt the history of Butlins. When Butlins opened and the pricing system, Billy had the idea a family's week holiday should reflect a family's week's wages. Now that system is nowhere to be seen, which isn't realistic in today's economy, but Billy's ethos has gone. We learnt when we were on the bar, upsell, upsell, upsell. My bar had a great system for upselling. If somebody ordered a shot, we would say, is that a house double? And if somebody ordered a house double, one of us on our bar would shout, house double! And the whole bar would go, woohoo! If somebody ordered the hot chips, which were nachos, we'd go, nachos! And maybe today it would seem a little bit frowned upon. We went, arriba, arriba, arriba! If somebody ordered the waves, we would shout waves, and the whole bar would do the Mexican wave. Simple things, but the guests loved it. It kept us energised and happy to be working. I got to the bar, I wasn't greeted with any eye contact, and we were told, doesn't matter if it takes you 3 minutes, 4 minutes to serve a customer, but make eye contact within the 30 seconds that you get there. This was poor, I had no eye contact. I got there, the bar seemed staff to be moping around. This was on a quiet night. They should have been energised, happy to talk to you, ask, make guest interactions. These were the things that we were told to do. This just didn't happen. I felt a little bit, my venue, my old bar, isn't the same. I spoke to a member of staff who is a redcoat now, and this redcoat said, my years were known as the golden years there. Everybody wanted to work in those fun years. Now they don't interact with each other, they're there to work. The redcoats get bullied. Okay, there was a little bit of rivalry, like there is with football teams. We had that between departments. Funfair stuck in their system with the lifeguards. Bars stuck together. The entertainment guys, some of the lighting, the sound crew, which held everything together in the venues, they stuck with the red coats. Bar staff also stuck with security. We all worked the same shifts, we stuck together. Now it seemed it was all individuals. I feel it's just lost a bit of the charm. When I walked into Reds, I was expecting the old photos of the resort, telling you the history of Butlins. That was all missing. Minehead has lost its charm. It has lost his little bit of what it is. I felt the whole resort was just simply run down, but I had my own issues with the resort during that holiday. Then I went.
Would you recommend working there now to anybody?
When I went, the way I could describe it was like being in an American college. If you've watched American Pie with the parties, that's what it's like. Now it seems to be a little bit flat. They seem to be working, don't get me wrong, on a lot better wages than I was. But to me, I wouldn't want to go back. But everybody's experience is their own.
Okay, finally for today, so as an ex-member of staff yourself, when you go there as a customer, what are you looking for, and what's something that you might notice that other people might not notice?
As an ex-team member, especially on bars, when I get to the bar, so I'm ordering a pint of cider for example, I look at the taps, I make sure there's a drip tray, and I do that for a reason. If there's not a drip tray, I watch where my pint is being poured for. Can't say why, because that's in-house information I can't give out, but you can guess why there isn't a drip tray and what is being used instead of a drip tray, and why I look where my pint is being poured from. If I order a bottle of alcohol pop, I look at the bottle and I inspect to see if there was a use by best before date, because they are quite easy to be rubbed off. Yet again, I'll let you use your own imagination on that. I look for drink bottles. If I order a gin and tonic for say, I look to see when they take it out of the fridge if the bottle top is on correctly, just in case it's not, and there may be a reason why your bottle may look overfilled, underfilled, or the lid looks loose on it. These are the things that I look for very quickly when I go to the bar, but I also look for the customer services. Is the bar dry? Is the receipts left on the bar dry? Is the bottles facing forward? These are things that we used to have to do religiously. When I go to the bathroom, simple things. I look at the toilet chart to see if the toilet had been cleaned on the hourly chart, because it should be. If you have any queries, stand your ground and make sure you complain. I went a couple of months ago and I had a very big issue. I found a substance in my room that must have been left over from an adult stay. A child found that substance. I made sure that I asked for security to come and remove it. They'd sent me a team of comm member. Now, accommodation can't deal with certain substances. Luckily, it was removed. They wanted to give me a £30 refund on my holiday, and I didn't believe this reflected the sincerity and the severity of this. Luckily, I stood my ground and I got a full refund. Children should not be finding products that should not be on resort. Okay, Butlins cannot monitor who or what comes onto resort, but I certainly do not want a child finding substances that adults shouldn't be taking, let alone children.
Okay guys, so that's it from us. So thank you very much, my sister, for answering some questions. I'm sure there's plenty more that we can pick her brain over. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below, all right? And then next time I see her, we'll try and put some more questions to her, all right? So if you've got some questions that you want answered by someone who used to work on resort, all right, then put it down below and we'll ask it for you. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, like, comment and subscribe. Take care, guys.